everybody. Thank you for joining us on Beyond Paranormal. I'm sorry we had some technical difficulties at the production studio. Thank you, Denny, for clearing those up for us. I am Cheryl Ledoux.
I'm Ben Ledoux.
And we have a great show planned for you tonight. We have some fabulous guests. We hope that you'll call in with any questions or get into our chat room. Our number is 818-431-8214 or 713-955-0384. In just a moment, we're going to be talking to the amazing Christopher St. Booth. He is a producer, director, composer, artist. He's done so much work through Sony Pictures, Sci-Fi, NBC Universal, Spook TV, and I'm sure so much more.
And he wears the most amazing hats, and I got to find out where he gets them from.
Yes, Ben is very jealous of his hats. And his most recently film that was just released July 15th, The Exorcist File, Haunted Boy, that is available at Redbox. So I hope that you'll all go out and rent that if you haven't already. So I guess we're just waiting for Christopher to call in. He's got a very long list of things that he's done. So I'm really super anxious to talk to him. He's probably calling in now, or I'm hoping. We said at 8 o'clock, so he should be here anytime. I know he works closely with his brother, Philip Adrian Booth. Booth Brothers Productions, they are a great team. They've made some amazing films, and I'm told that he is here with us now. Christopher, hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, darling?
I'm fabulous. Congratulations on your recent nuptials to your beautiful wife.
Well, thank you very much. I never thought I would be doing that again, but, you can never say never, I think.
Well, she's absolutely adorable, and you guys are just so romantic. It's just envious.
Well, thank you so much.
I did, and it was really such a different wedding, and I just loved it. It was gorgeous.
It was more like a jammed wedding because I was trying to finish a film. We didn't have a lot of time, and then I had my son down, so it was like kind of put together like within 24 hours. But it actually turned out incredibly fantastic, which I really think if you don't plan things, they have a tendency to work out a lot better. But it was pretty great.
I know the pictures I saw were beautiful.
They were.
I'm
jealous.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Of your hat. He wants to know where you get your hats.
It was very hot that day with those clothes on, I tell you.
Yeah, I am jealous of your hat, though. I need to get one. I've been sporting the straw version, and my daughter stole it from me.
It's always got a cowboy hat.
And my kids steal all my hats, but then I saw yours, and I was like, I need that one.
Well, all the hats I wear are very real ones, so they take time to find. I mean, I don't like cheap hats, so it takes time to find the real ones. A lot of them are made with the old beaver. When they used to make them out of beaver. I actually have a real tombstone hat too, which is pretty cool. But it takes time. But a man is.
You'll have to send me a link of where I can find those because I've been looking for a real one. I know exactly what you mean. I hate picking it. I go to all these stores and you look at them and they're like, it's not really what I'm looking for. That ain't it.
Well, there's kind of all kind of places. I mean, we do a lot of films, so we have a lot of connections to wardrobes. So a lot of the times when I rent clothes from, whether it's Warner Brothers or somebody or Western Costumes or find it online with Dracula clothing, whatever, we end up using them in the film, and then we're able to keep them after. So that's kind of how they end up being adapted. It was sort of like, we need to find somebody that looks like this in the movie so I can keep his clothes.
Awesome. Now, you've had a very, very long career so far. I read that you started singing and playing guitar at age 4.
Yeah, we started sort of like following the Beatles at age 4, and then by the time we were about 11, we started, becoming serious musicians and locking ourselves up in the basement and practicing, and then by the time we were 13, we started, touring and going out to, playing little small places, and then by the time we turned 18, we were then touring in front of 20,000 people. I had a gold record out and did the whole thing like that, and then eventually started doing movies and publishing and everything else. So yeah, it's been all entertainment my whole life.
Well, I'm a little bit jealous because yes,
just a little
bit. I read that you took over in a band that Bryan Adams was playing in.
Yeah, well, it was actually originally my older brother was a drummer, and they had a couple of gold records out. And what happened is a guy named Nick Gilder, who did the song Hot Child in the City and a couple other songs, I Am the Warrior, which was done by Patti Smythe. We did that from Pat Benatar. Did a couple of his songs. He left the band, and a guy named Bryan Adams joined the band, and then Bryan Adams was actually let go in this band, and then I took Bryan Adams' place. That's how that happened. I was 18. I was 18 at the time, so it was a very big step. But of course, at 18, I don't really know if you think about how big it really was when you're 18, because you kind of think you're invincible, maybe more so. But I remember when I played, the first gig with them, it was like in front of 20,000 people, and it was very overwhelming.
Yeah, I bet. But
I'm still invincible. I'm 37. We talk about being invincible.
Yeah. And from there, you transitioned to Canada, or was that during that time?
We toured all over America, Europe, Canada, everywhere. We went wherever, the band took us or whatever, wherever it took us, we went and followed a career, and then I ended up getting married and moving to America, and then continued from that point on. But it was like we wanted to get into film because we felt music is obviously my first love still. I still do the music and all the films and the soundtracks, but it wasn't enough, I think. I mean, we were doing it so much, I think we had to take a break, but being, I guess, such a strong artist, we couldn't take a break. We ended up doing something else, which was at that point was film, and then film and music, and then we started doing, I guess, like graphic art and 3D games. I actually, was designing like little people in films, 3D, motion capture, virtual reality. We even did that. We did everything, a little bit of everything. Just as long as it was art,
Right. You started in basically at the bottom of the totem pole in like the art department and doing like personal assistant work, correct?
Well, exactly. Yeah, we started. You've done your homework there, darling. We started at the very bottom. We actually worked for. We were doing. What were we doing? We were doing grunt work as art, working on art direction. Like basically, just really the worst jobs. Like if somebody needed a ditch, like say there was a grave in the back of somebody's yard in a movie, we'd have to dig that grave. We'd have to dig it. So it was very, intensive labor, but it was still in the film business. I mean, we had to build blown up, zombie apocalypse worlds for, the end of the world type movies and all that. And we weren't getting paid very much, so we were just doing that. And then one day we met some people that were doing Playboy films, and they actually offered us more money to be PAs on them. And basically, we had to run around and do whatever, pick up the food or pick up the towels, whatever they needed. We had to do.
Sure many.
That must have been tough. I mean, just to walk around with Playboy bunnies all day, that must have been. was that more of a dream time?
It was and it wasn't. I mean, because I think, even though it was the nature of that beast, our mind was still always focused on art. So even there was a lot of new, people around you, we weren't really looking at it as that concept. We would just know that we were there to create some form of entertainment. And
how old were you with the Playboy?
Oh, I think that was, I don't know when that was. I can't remember now. That was maybe in the 30s, maybe around 30. Oh. I know what we did was, when Playboy was, back then, Playboy had to have a reason to be able to even do nudity in films. So they needed strong stories and strong films. So they they had seen some of the, I guess, the art direction work that we've done, and they liked what we did. So basically, we made the films look like real films, and that actually helped them then the satellite. We actually brought high definition into Playboy because at that time they were only using video, and HD just came out at that time, and we knew how to do HD, so we actually brought HD cameras in and did a very high end.
This is like what, in the 80s then?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
So that was like what, in the 80s?
In the when? I'm sorry.
1980s that you did that, right?
I can't remember.
It must have been the 80s. I think 83 is when high definition really came popular.
Yeah, I think that's probably when it was. It was around that time. I can't really remember, but I know that we did like 56 films in 2 years for them.
Wow.
And that's basically we did 2 a month, which was actually great because it really we saw every avenue of the film. I mean, editing, music, wardrobe, production design, everything, and it was really good. But at the end of that, we realized that, you know, we still felt a little silly. It wasn't really what we were meant to be. I mean, it was good. It was good experience, but at that same time, it wasn't what we wanted to do. So we left, and we started making horror films. And, of course, we were broke at that point, but it still was more satisfying. I mean, you can only, you know, obviously shoot so many boobs at that point and feel stupid about it. And I think it just wasn't giving us what we felt was our nature. I think everybody has stepping stones, you know what I mean? But I think if you use the stepping stones correctly, then they truly are stepping stones. And, of course, one thing led to another, and we film, we edit, we write, we do the music, we do everything. And we started doing horror films, and then Sony got interested in what we were doing, and Sci-Fi got interested in what we were doing, because we were doing very artsy-type stuff. And even the Playboy stuff we did was very artsy. Really great lighting, great wardrobe, very moody, very beautiful, very romantic. So, it's, you know, as long as I think the artist shines in you no matter what you do, if you're a true artist. If you paint a house, it's going to look very good. Even though you might not want to do that, but, you know.
No, I actually, the older films, I know what you're talking about. They had a nice storyline and everything to them. So I'm not that
we worked for the European division, so they were very artsy. We could do whatever we wanted. You know, you could put, like, a woman could be a spider and a man could be caught in a spider web. You know, so it was very artsy. It was like Fellini. It was like Salvador Dali. It was very artsy. It wasn't, you know, what they're doing today.
Yeah, it wasn't just.
What they have today is this zero, unromantic, no class, get to the point, do it. As we joke, we made all the parts that everybody forwarded through, you know.
Right. No, actually, I spent actually a year living in France, and I've probably seen some of your work for. Well, I mean, I was there working on building ships at the time.
In France?
Yeah. In France. I was stationed for over a year and a half, actually.
Yeah, about that.
So,
yeah, we were very big in France. The erotic stuff we did was very big in France because it was very artsy.
Right.
We were featured in all the major magazines because what we did was art.
I may have actually seen some of the work without even realizing it.
Maybe. I don't know, but I mean, European stuff is always, you know, truly a little bit more artsy than the American stuff was.
It's a lot. You know. I mean, it's natural, and it was nice storylines, and it's entertainment factor versus the average. If you understand what, you know, they think of it as boy, so it's, you know, it ain't anything like it.
Well, I mean, you know, you take a movie like Quills, you know, or, you know, even the 50 Shades to Grey, which seemed, I personally didn't think the trailer was very exciting, but the new trailer is just released. But I mean, you talk about more artsy stuff like that you know, that satisfies you romantically and fantasy, not stuff like that just, you know, maybe destroys your soul or something, you know. So I mean, it's each you know, to each your own. Nobody's here to, you know, say what's wrong, what's right. It's just, know what was right for us. It wasn't right for us to keep doing that, but it was a nice stepping stone for us to learn. I mean, being able to get the cameras and all the equipment and lighting and crew and models and people to film and practice on basically filming and writing stories when you're just first starting out is a great way of experiencing the film business. Is you have to do it, and especially when you're doing it so quick, turn around, shooting something within 3 or 4 days. It was a very valid strength for us when we started going to horror films, because horror films, they get shot in about 10 to 15 days. So we were pretty well prepared when we needed to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Horror films are my favorite because I love horror films. and now that I've done so much research on you, I have so many more to watch. There's nothing better. I noticed. I'm like, I've seen that one before. And
well, Death Hunter was our first successful film. We did one before that called Dark Place, which did good in Europe, but didn't do very well in America, probably because it was too artsy. At the time we had done that film, it was when the first Saw came out, so everybody was kind of going that direction, and ours was more psychological thriller. We don't do slasher movies. We don't do movies where people just get killed for no reason. I don't believe in that at all. Obviously, if you want to do that, just watch AOL or something. But we did psychological thrillers like Hitchcock,
I'm not a huge
David Lynch
fan
type films.
Stuff. That stuff I still have to hide my face for. Ben's a huge fan of anything horror.
Well, I mean, not just horror. I like something that catches you off guard. I don't care for the guts. I want something that thing that makes you jump in your wow. That's the horror that I enjoy.
Well, I like supernatural thrillers, and horror. I like that stuff. I like paranormal when paranormal was not normal. Now it's changed quite a bit. Everything is kind of like just whatever, it's funny because you can watch a very big action film and fall asleep in it. You can watch a film where they're cutting all these people's heads off and doing the terrible things and fall asleep and not even be phased. I think a lot of it for this is so much in your face. I think paranormal has become that way too. There's just so much around that you just don't, whatever. We always went for something different. When somebody was doing something too much, we decided we'll leave and do something different. We don't want to be a part of the everyday routine of anything. And I think the new film that we just finished, Dead Still, is a great, unique story, and it's very twisted and very cool. And it's based on true events. It's a death Victorian camera, a haunted camera that was used for death photography, post-mortem photography in the 18th century. And and actually
when do we expect it out?
Oh, it's if all goes well, it should be it would be the top sci-fi film for Halloween. So it's supposed to be coming out somewhere between October, whatever I don't know what day. We haven't got a release date yet, but it's sometime in October, probably the middle of October, because it's meant for Sci-Fi Channel Halloween release. So that's when. I don't have an exact date yet, but it's called Dead Still, and it's just about a Victorian camera that remembers what it shot, and it shot some pretty twisted stuff back then. Wow. And the guy finds it in modern day. He actually inherits it from his great-grandfather, and it's a death Victorian camera, and he goes and decides to take pictures at a wedding and decides to take pictures of people, but those photographs turn out to be very wicked, and what happens to those people is very twisted that he takes pictures of. And it goes far more into what this is about, but it has Ray Weiss in it, which is a great Ray Weiss from Twin Peaks and Jeepers Creepers, and Ben Browder from Farscape and Stargate's in it. And it's really good, and really, I love the art direction in it. It's got some really crazy creatures, very Resident Evil-like, very Silent Hill type art direction in it. We actually get your soul gets taken and gets pulled into the camera, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if I accidentally got a proof of that movie to watch, that would be great, because that's my favorite stuff.
Yeah, well, we're just waiting for the release date. We've just actually wrapped it up officially last week. We were a little behind schedule, but we're kind of perfectionists, so we wouldn't let it go. But we let it go last week, so we're waiting on the dates and when they're going to air it. And we're very excited. And after it airs, then they'll release it worldwide on DVD and streaming and everything else, the other medium.
I can't wait to see it. I'll tell you that right now.
Now, your most recent film that was just released on July 15th was The Exorcist File, Haunted Boy, which is available in the box. So if anybody hasn't seen it yet, you've got to go see it. It was a good film. Me and Ben.
I don't even know. That was a great documentary. I mean, I don't know how much more perfect. You literally had everything. Yeah, that was just an amazing watch. Written.
Well, thank you. I think we paced it just to try to do something different. I mean, the Exorcist story has been told a few times, and what I think we tried to do was tell you stuff that you didn't know. And we took it from the diary. We got a copy of the diary, and we basically researched the diary and see what fact we could find based on that, and then kind of tracked it down and shown you what we found. At that point in time, we were the only people that went into the real house and did a paranormal investigation. Of course, Ghost Adventures had just done it a year, I think it was 7 months ago or maybe a year ago. They actually got some of our footage to use in their show, but we were actually the first to go in there and do that and document what we found, and then talk to the real family of the Exorcist and talk to the family of the boy, as well as tell you some crazy stuff that you didn't even know that happened, and what you wondered did happen. We found out as much as we could. I find it a very fascinating documentary. I hear a lot that once you start watching it, you can't stop because it's very intriguing.
Yeah, we that was like a movie you couldn't stop watching. I mean, we rented that because it was the only place we could. It took us forever just to get it. I mean, we went to
a few different Redboxes.
I think we had to go to like 4 or 5 different locations at Redbox just to find a copy of it that wasn't already rented, and then we finally got it. And we still haven't returned it because I'm looking at watching it for the 3rd time. Because there was information crammed into such time.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff in there, On our website, we give you a copy of the real diary when you buy the DVD. We actually make copies of the diary and give you the copy of the real Exorcist diary free with the DVD, so you can read the diary and then follow it to the movie, which is pretty intense as well.
Question, you are going to have to send me a link for that, because I am definitely going to buy it, because I am so looking forward to actually reading the diary.
Ben asked.
Yeah, I messaged you about that. I was like, I want the diary.
The diary, we have, it's on our website at spooktv.com, www.spooktv.com. I think it's the first DVD that's there, and when you buy that DVD, we send you a free a PDF copy to your email of it. It's like 28 pages, and it's basically a scanned copy of the journal, and all put together like a nice little book that you get with it. And we also give you an autographed picture too at the same time. So you can get that at spooktv.com. And if
definitely send us the links to that, because
I can put them right on.
We're going to put them right up on our page, because that's anybody who hasn't seen this documentary yet, and anybody who hasn't read this diary, which I've forgotten, is definitely worth the time. And the film makes it's just amazing. Like I said, you're not going to stop watching it. I'm on my 3rd time. I'm already paying late fees on it because it was so good. I don't care. I have to watch it. Just to be able to catch the pieces that every time I watch it, it's like, oh, and then you watch the movie. I mean, anybody who follow The Exorcist, because I follow horror movies, and I followed all the remakes of The Exorcist all the way back, and you catch pieces, and then you start putting everything together, and you find the parts that are true. It's like they took little itty bits of information, but then you put it out there, and it's like there's all of it in one shot. Here you go. This is,
well, some of the people we interview, the people we interview are very incredible. William Bradshaw being a demonologist for the church, for the Vatican, which is incredible. His point of view on demons and God itself is incredible. And then, of course, the great niece of the exorcist comes up with her story of just basically having barbecues with the real exorcist and what it's like when he came home, after a long day at work of exercising. So, I mean, it's a very fascinating story.
Oh, totally. Now, how much actual research did you have to do for this film? Because there was so much involved in it. I don't imagine it was just a regular filming.
Well, no. Well, when we do our shows, we try to do two. Obviously, because we're an independent film company and finance our own stuff, we try to do as much as we can at one filming. So we usually go out to try to do two shows at one time, and then maybe come back with more stuff and say we better make that a third show because there's too much cool stuff here to put out in just this other show. And so we have a lot of people. We have the Paranormal Task Force with a great help of research on that show. Greg Myers and Sandra Ost did a lot of really great research on that film of The Exorcist and helped us connect the dots. And then when we got the diary from a psychiatrist who was basically studying it to see what he wanted to put the devil on the couch, so to speak, so he was studying it to see what it would be like for him to do psychiatry to the devil, which I thought was fascinating in its own right. And so we just brought in a lot of people and just put it all together.
Well, it came together nicely. I mean, the flow and everything was amazing. In fact, I might even watch it after we're done with this show tonight.
Watch it again.
I mean, I've been caught up because we've been following on an HBO series for a while, and it's like, you want to watch this or that tonight?
So we keep going back and forth.
Well, yeah, like I said, I find it fascinating. I've seen it many times, obviously. It's like our other shows. They're very fascinating. One of my favorites being Soul Catcher, the Native American plight, is a beautiful story about all that. But they're very fascinating stories, and they're true. And it's Children of the Grave being a very good one, too. And Spook being the first one we did on Waverly Hills Sanatorium, which is pretty heavy duty.
I heard you had quite a few, just amazing experiences there.
Yeah, well, I think that's what started it all. That started everything for Philip and I. And I know even the actresses we brought, Death Tunnel was filmed in Waverly, so that was our movie for horror film for Sony. I remember when they got off the van and they looked at Waverly Hills and went, what? And I go, and it's haunted, too. They went, oh, my God. It was just classic to see people from, they bring them in from Beverly Hills and Los Angeles and put them in a haunted place in the South and go, survive.
Right? No, and it's not actually a fake set.
No, it's all real. Everything is real. Even in the movie Dead Still, the house we film in is real, that from a plantation. And that was haunted, too, because it had an old phone that kept ringing, and that was never hooked. It was one of those wind-up phones. And from the 19th century, and it kept ringing, and that place had voices all over it in all audio. So everything we pretty much do, we film in all the real places. We could have shot Death Tunnel on a set, but we chose to shoot it. Actually, 90% of the film is shot in Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and the rest is, I think, a moment is shot in the club in Phoenix Hill, which is in Louisville as well. So it's all shot on location.
Now, Waverly Hills had to be a little bit scary for you at one point. I heard that the power went out there.
Oh, yeah, well, we had generators. There was really not much power there. There was only power on the bottom floors. So we had obviously dressing rooms and everything running by generator. But the generator shut down because there was a thunderstorm. But, I mean, a lot of stuff happened at Waverly. I mean, an incredible amount of stuff. it just goes on from everything that ever started the paranormal business that was cool, that was really exciting, why you want to even be a paranormal investigator, happened there. The cold spots and the shadow people and the EVPs and the the cave meter readings, and just everything happened all right then for us when we were down there, because we didn't really know anything about the paranormal business at that point, because it was our first experience in paranormal, and we learned pretty quickly watching the great people that we work with.
Now, do you investigate any on your own, or are you strictly just when you do movies now?
We're too busy. I mean, we've been doing paranormal shows for, I want to say, over 7 years. It might even be longer. We've done so many, and we've got so many that we haven't even edited yet that we want to try to put out too, that we've been filming. We were doing a reality show, I think it was last year, for Sci-Fi, and then A&E wanted it, and now it's kind of got mixed up who wants to take it and what's going to happen with it. So we're not sure what's going to go down with that, but we filmed all this footage that we want to put out, incredible footage at many different locations. And we also filmed something in New Orleans called Voodoo and Vampires. It's the true plight of voodoo and vampirism in New Orleans. And we lived down there for a while, and we went through some crazy stuff. I mean, really scary stuff.
Ben spent quite a while in New Orleans as well working, because he's in shipping. He go port to port to port. And yes, he's had quite a few wild experiences there as well.
It's a great town, but it's also somewhat dangerous. And you have to be somewhat. I mean, in Louisiana, voodoo is a very serious situation. Hoodoo and voodoo. So we did a lot of research down there, and we shot a lot of stuff. And we did the story of Marie Laveau, of course, and also on Lollery. We did that. Everything that was in American Horror, we actually did. We did all those stories on them and filmed the real places and the real stuff. And we're going to try to see if we can wrap that up. And we'd love to try to release it by October. I'm not sure if that's going to happen due to the fact of Dead Still is coming out, and we have to promote that. But we're trying to get that out. It's not October, maybe Christmas. But it's pretty scary. There's a lot of stuff we uncovered. We talked to all the real voodoo practitioners, which is what they like to be called, not voodoo priests or queens or whatever you want to call them, and talked to some real vampires that believe they're really real vampires, and they do some horrible stuff, I'm afraid.
I've actually
heard good and bad.
I've actually met some of these people. In fact, I met one lady who is outside of New Orleans down there, actually has a creepiest in my life where it's actually made out of human skin.
Necromancy?
She was a necromancer, not a
right. Yeah, that's a fascinating subject.
Yeah, I know people that
it's a little freaky,
are in covens of vampires, but they don't drink blood, and it's more of a spiritual, I guess, like type of thing. I've never met any vampires.
Yeah. I dealt with these psychic vampires, the spiritual vampires. Is it called the word is Sagittarium or something like that? It's a whole thing of exchanging energy, and basically one day somebody didn't give the energy back, and that created the psychic energy stealing vampires. But I'm very well aware of that. We interviewed quite a few for the show, but I was actually really interested in the ones who really believed that they would go out at night and do what they thought was right to do it. I was just fascinated to see that. And we also, the necromancers, as well as the Rite of the Toad, which is pretty scary stuff too. It's right on knocking on Aleister Crowley's door, basically, looking for the realm of the entrance of the Antichrist and all that stuff. So it's pretty crazy stuff, but it's fascinating. And we researched all that and interviewed all the people and filmed all the tombs and cool stuff in the houses down there and did everything. So we're looking forward to trying to wrap that up.
Well, I will certainly be looking forward to that one as well. You're just like creating a huge list of things that I have to see this year because they are just so fascinating and sound so interesting.
Well, in some senses, they're very sexy, and I think that's what gets you going. Is it creates an energy, whether your brain wants to learn it, your whatever. It creates a very positive energy because even though you're dealing with possibly darkness, as long as you're looking at it the right direction, nothing can hurt you if you don't fear it, and fear is the unknown. So a lot of people they can't say, I don't want to watch the Exorcist story because I'm scared of it. Well, I respect that. If you can't do that, you shouldn't. But what's really great is that if you learn it and understand it, then you won't be scared of it if it happens to you or it knocks at your door, because you're usually scared when you don't know about something. Once you know about it, you could get even more scared, but you can also take it in your own hands and say, okay, let's look at it this way, and this is what I need to do, meaning that, if you believe Ouija boards are going to hurt you, it's nice to know a little bit about them and realizing to solidify that the fact that they do or they don't, or maybe it's not worth to even find out because you really like your life, so why are you playing around? These are just things that I find fascinating, and, a very good creativity. It also looks really good when you're creating something to present. It's really, it's got a lot of nice Gothic art to it as well. It's a very classy and a sexy affair with all that dark art and stuff, which I find very fascinating.
Yeah, and
I'm a very big fan of dark art, and
Ben and I have when we were thrown into paranormal, when we bought we bought a very old house that used to be a restaurant, and the history dates back hundreds of years from the actual property, and we had some amazing people on the first year here. Of course, basically educate ourselves and educate more, and we had to bring in people to help. And then it's just been a continued learning experience, finding out everything we can possibly do, learn, know.
This is the property that was actually the first U.S. general in the United States.
Yeah.
It's a property that we own. It was his daughter's dowry that we own.
Wow.
So it dates way back to the 1700s as far as this property goes. So there's a lot of history here.
Yeah, it's a great place. Now that it's calmed down,
Where
it's better.
are you guys located?
We're in Massachusetts.
Oh, cool. Well, that's something we want to do. We had a show that we were pitching called Witch Hunters. We were very excited about doing the history of witchcraft, and we were definitely looking forward to. Salem actually kind of took what we were going to do. The Salem show, it's on WGN. I don't know if you've seen that show, Salem. Pretty good.
No, I haven't.
I've heard about it, but I haven't.
Well, it's good because it's like they do a lot of research. So when they're putting it, even though it's fiction, when they're doing it, it's based on stuff that what people used to do, people used to say, people used to wear, people used to do. It's all very realistic, even though it's a fiction story. And I just find it very fascinating. It's done very well, too.
And there are many people in the Salem area and throughout Massachusetts who still heavily practice witchcraft. I think now more they tend to call it being pagan or Wiccan. There's huge, yes, I am a witch. Go to Salem and they will tell you, yes, I'm a witch. I don't beat on the bush. So much history there. I mean, 100, not even touch on.
Well, I think that you're pretty much classified and labeled as a witch if you don't believe in God, it seems anyway, in general. I think that that anything is cool to practice as long as it's not hurting somebody, as long as it's promoting positive light, positive forwardness, as long as you're really nice to people and you help them and you have compassion. I'm not sure if it's if it's a bad thing to practice anything, but to each their own. I just know what works for us, and I think us being positive and staying in the light works for us, and removing yourself from anybody that is too negative or too much into dark energy, that,
right.
You can see their life falling apart, and because
no
there's good chances there's good chances the next of yours is going to be just like that too.
Uh-huh. Now, you've always worked with your brother, and you look so similar. How close are you in age, or are you twins? Because you look...
We're identical twins, so there you go.
Okay.
We're identical, and he's 1 hour older than I am.
Is he?
There you go. That explains probably why we look alike. But
siblings do look really close. I mean, you can tell there's a little bit of differences in you. Mainly, I think one of you is just a little bit shorter, or maybe just one of you.
I think. Well, maybe half an inch. I bought the measuring tape, but yeah, maybe.
Well, we all shrink a little with age. I know I did. Although Ben went to his physical, and they said he was an inch taller.
And I'm going with it, too. I'm growing up.
Finally.
Wow, maybe.
Now,
we are talking about height, right?
Men are never going to grow up. If I've waited so long, why bother now?
No, you shouldn't grow up. It's why? It's the fantasy and the dream that keeps you alive. I mean, we're lucky enough to be able to create and just do that, and I think that's why we try to be very positive, because we try to encourage and inspire. I think the best compliments we ever get is when somebody say, you've inspired me, or you've brought my family together and we understand each other now, or this happened or this happened. Positive stuff like that really, really makes you realize that what you do is worth it. I mean, you've got to charge and stuff sometimes, because, I mean, you have to survive. Our films cost money, so we have to sell them. We can't give them away, because we do finance them. But, I mean, if we really wanted to make a lot of money, I swear we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, because, there's a lot of hours. I mean, you average 18 hours a day in the entertainment business, easily. You live in your studio pretty much. I mean, I'm in a studio right now. Every house I'm in is just full of equipment and studios and cameras and sets and wardrobes, and that's it. And I realize that when I'm not doing that, I feel very lost, and I get very scared. I feel like, oh my God, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore. What am I doing? And I've realized that it's not a bad thing as long as you realize what makes you tick, what turns you on. And I think being involved in entertainment, whether it's art, music, film, poetry, painting, whatever it may be, is really what works for us.
Well, I think the most successful thing and what makes you work is that, unlike a lot of people, you never sell out. You go for what's true to what you do, and you stick to it.
Well, we've been asked to sell out. We've been asked to do some silly stuff, and I can't say that, sometimes when the electric bills gets late, or your car insurance, and you go like, I really need the money, maybe I should do this. But then you're thinking like, I just can't do this. Or maybe you even try to do it, and you walk off the set and say, I can't do this. It just doesn't feel right. It's not me. And I think we do that a lot. Even in our new films, we have 100% creative control in what we put out.
Stay true to what you believe in and what you produce. And like you said, it's a profession. So 18 hours for 18 hours a day for 2 hours of what we see, and people don't realize how much work goes into this. Even on the investigatory side, there's so much time invested for just 30 minutes of talking to a client and saying, this is what we found. And it's not close to what you have to do, but I mean, you have what, however many cameras rolling, trying to catch the perfect footage, the perfect lighting, perfect this, perfect that, and to have to go through it all to get that 2 hours of perfect so that you can put it out there and put your name on it and say, I did this. And I think that's what stands out.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, even though for the paranormal investigators, we treat them with respect. Whoever we're filming, we try to make sure they look good, and even if they screw up on, when they're trying to tell the story, we don't make them look silly. We try to go out of the way to make them look very, professional as we would, because people get nervous on camera. A lot of people just make them look silly, and we won't do that. We try to give everybody, the respect that anybody would deserve, and we try to tell a very good story. Try to tell it somewhat unbiased, even though, we do believe in it. So I'm not sure how unbiased that is, because you kind of have to not believe or believe, but we do believe in it only because we've seen stuff and witnessed stuff we can't explain. So when that's the true meaning of paranormal, is when you can't explain it. And there's just no explanation to some of the stuff that we feel. First of all, it's about what you feel, and that's intuition. That's, your God's gift of having that gut feeling. You follow that gut feeling. What's the intuition? Well, there's a reason why you have the intuition. It's basically telling you, hey, something's up, whatever direction you want to take it. So we follow a lot of our intuition. And we've been very successful in most of the places we go in there. Something pretty much happens pretty shortly. Though we filmed in Waverly off and on for 2 years.
Wow.
And there were times that we stayed. I remember excited, I guess being a paranormal virgin at the time, I really hadn't done it. So, hey, let's stay in the hallway all night, crouched down, and we put 4 cameras, one on each corner of us, and sat in the middle of them all night. Nothing happened. Nothing.
And that's the way it goes.
Exactly. And the next day, something happens and you're not ready, or
right.
It happens and, But what I love more about, I guess, as much, getting a really cool EVP. I mean, it's hard to get EVPs that are very sad, because then you have to deal with them. I know in the movie The Possessed, which was shot in Waseca, Illinois, the Waseca Wonder story, we got a EVP that said, Mommy, why is Daddy doing this to me? And by a little girl, and that's really hard to deal with, because you want to help, you want to go and save, you want to do something. You can't just blow it off and say, well, hey, I'm not getting paid, hey, is this not going to sell? You got a sense of a lot of the shows we do, some of them the networks won't pick up because they're too sensitive in the nature of what we find or the story we're telling, like Native American stories. Some of it's too sensitive, and a lot of networks don't want to touch that. They don't want to get involved in possible lawsuits or whatever may, come out of it. So, but what we try to do is just go tell the story, and as long as we feel that, I guess, that gut feeling, you feel like you're telling the story of the untold story that we believe that helps them move on to the light, because otherwise you have a trapped, like a screaming child saying, hey, show me some attention, and you listen to them, you find out what is wrong, and once you listen to them is all it really takes. And so we try to do everything we do, whether it's through, research, psychics, electronic ghost hunting equipment, or whatever it may be. We try to piece it together and see and then base it on what we were, authentically happened to them through archives, history, all that stuff. And then, just like he's a great, for you guys who watch The Exorcist, here's a great little thing here. Like in the movie The Possessed that we did, which is 2 titles before that, Exodus File, we interviewed 5 teenagers that all said, and they didn't know each other neither, and it was filmed in different places. And they never did once hear each other's interviews. They all said that they had heard marching sounds and some sound of like a trumpet or like an army marching. And we said, well, that's weird. And then another person said it. I went, well, that's weird. Didn't really think much about it until we read that diary of the Exorcist. And then it says in there that the boy used to hear marching and the sound of trumpets when he was being possessed. And then you went, wow. And now you know that everything you just heard from 5 people in the present day, and that was documented in a 1949 diary, that there has to be something authentic about this. That gave you chills down your spine. And you go, oh my God. And you keep, first of all, possession and exorcism is a military term. Legion is army. I am many. It's a form of an army, the army of darkness. So when you start piecing all this together, you go like, wow, this is incredible. And that's why I think we get off on that as well, you know, when piecing all these puzzles together.
Very cool. I just found the entire thing, just matching up the history was, I mean, you just can't stop listening for a second. It's a great film.
Well, yeah, especially when you're in a world that is full of so much darkness now. Not saying that negatively, right? Because you have a choice. You have a choice, you really do, and sometimes you feel you don't, but you do have a choice whether you're going to frown or you're going to smile or you're going to be in a bad mood or a good mood. And I know that sometimes we can't help it, but you do have a choice, and it's really up to you to learn to control when you're in a negative energy, to get rid of it and put positive over it, and it will overcome. And that's what we must practice more of.
Yes, definitely. Now, what are the next 2 events you at?
This weekend we're playing at Fandom Fest in Louisville, Kentucky, August 1st, August 3rd, down at Kentucky Convention Center. We'll be there this weekend, and we're actually showing some scenes from Dead Still. There'll be the first scene of Dead Still, and we'll be playing. We have some big posters of the Exorcist File and all kinds of autographed pictures, and all our DVDs are there for sale. And then the next one is Scarefest, which I believe is, I don't even want to say the date because I don't have it in front of me, but it's in Lexington, Kentucky, and I think it's September. Let me see if I can swing to that month and see. I should have the calendar in front of me, but I don't. I believe it's September 12th, 13th, and 14th in Lexington, Kentucky. Scarefest, which is a great show. Very good for paranormal. Fandom Fest is not so much paranormal, but Scarefest is very paranormal friendly. I think, all the paranormal people are there on that one. And then after that, I should pull up our tour picture, shouldn't I? And see where we're going. We do so many things. It's really hard to even remember where we're going. Let me see if I can pull it up so I can quickly state some of these things here. I know it's somewhere here. I get rid of my marriage pictures on Facebook here. Here we go. Yeah, so August 1st to 3rd, we're at Fandom Fest in Louisville, Kentucky. September 12th to 14th, we're at Scarefest. October 10th and 12th, I'm at the Old South Paranormal in Convention in Mobile, Alabama. And then we're doing Epicon in Dayton, Ohio on October 24th, 26th. Then we're doing the Iron Island Museum, which I'm really excited about going, on October 29th and 30th in Buffalo, New York. That's pretty cool because we've never been there, and I can't wait to do it. And then we're doing an exorcist party for the release at Rolling Hills Asylum on Halloween night on the 31st. And that's going to be cool because everybody that's in that film is going to be there, and as well as we're going to recreate what we did. Because in that movie that you guys watched, the exorcisms that we recreated actually was filmed in Rolling Hills Asylum. Right. And it was filmed in the room that was supposed to be supposedly haunted. And it went crazy when we filmed it. We really didn't do much of a ghost investigation in that room because we were filming this for this show, but I do know we experienced a lot of stuff in that building, and especially that room. All the windows started rocking like crazy when we were filming it. It's a cool place. But Island Museum is going to be a real sexy event. I think Chip Coffey's joining us on that one too, and that will be a really good event.
I know that DTM Wicked Radio, I know the producers are going up there for that, and we had thought about going to that. That's my daughter's birthday on the 21st.
Yeah, well, we're excited because we've never been there, and I've heard so much about it. And Linda, who's running, has been very sweet and very supportive, and we're excited to meet her and go through that. So we're gonna be doing a special thing with them on that night, and then I'll be in Buffer, New York, and then Bethany, New York. We're doing a Halloween night. We'll be doing a quick exorcist party to celebrate the release of this film.
Very cool. Well, hopefully
and
we
then
will
I think at that point, it'd be Christmas at that point. I think after that, I think we're going to probably do the New Orleans Comic-Con. We've actually thought about going to New Orleans and doing the Comic-Con because we'll probably finish doing some filming for Voodoo and Vampires when we're down there. So we'll do the Comic-Con, which I believe is November 11th and 12th, whatever the weekend is. I don't have it in front of me again, but something like that. We'll be doing that then. And then I know that I will be in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. I'm having my honeymoon at that point.
Yeah, I hope
I will be going.
Off for your lovely bride and give her a few days of honeymoon.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She really is. She's a beautiful person inside and out. Energy is what it's really all about. I'm sure you guys understand how hard it is to be around bad energy and negativity, which unfortunately the paranormal really seems to dwell on nowadays with all the backstabbing and the drama, which we try to stay away from. It is, and it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't, because it's going against what it's even supposed to be about. I understand if people have opinions and they disagree, and I understand if somebody is, making money off of saying this and that, and I understand all that. But at the same time, it's the nature. I don't want to say it's the nature of the beast, but understand that, I believe in people. I think people can make their own decisions. As well. I really believe that, hey, if I want to believe something, I'm going to believe it. If I don't want to believe something, I'm not going to believe it. I don't think I need somebody to tell me whether I believe in it or I don't believe in it. You don't need to see, God to believe in him, kind of thing. So it's like, I just think that everybody should respect each other and let everybody do their own thing, as long as nobody's hurting anybody.
Well, if you ever end up in her, you'll have to hook us up. So we got plenty of room to crash upon.
But hopefully we'll
well,
I've been really looking forward to heading up that way.
No, definitely. Well, hopefully we'll see you at one of the shows, and we can have a drink or something. That'd be great.
That would be
Absolutely. Great. I heard you're really great at karaoke.
I hope so. I hadn't sung for a long time because I'm in the studio, but I play the keyboards because I score all the films, but I don't really sing very much. And I used to be a singer for a very long time. That's what I did in the rock and roll band. So I think at the Mid-Ohio, it had 8 doubles, and I said I really wanted to do an AC/DC tribute. And, of course, Rachel wanted to do the Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way. So we just went ahead and did it for fun, but it was beautiful. The people there were really beautiful. Everybody was really, really sweet and friendly. Never have I ever seen so much incredible response to, I guess, my wedding that it was so beautiful, I think we had like 1,052 likes in 2 days on our wedding picture, which is a lot, really. I mean, I get 50 likes on one of our titles. So it's like on my wedding picture, I got 100,052.
I kind of felt like a stalker liking all of your pictures, because I would see one, and then you would put up another one. I'm like, oh, that one's so beautiful, and then you'd put up another one, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't like the next one because he's going to think I'm stalking him. But they were just
we wanted to share it because it really, that's what really it felt like. It felt like you. I did a thing on Facebook just to say that I have some friends that didn't even say anything, and I had all these people I didn't even know saying such beautiful stuff, and it actually was beautiful because it really reminded me of it shows you there are really beautiful people out there that you don't even know.
I was going to say, make you for a movie star, but you already are. So, I mean, it was...
Well, no, I think it's great because, why waste on... Here's a good thing. Why waste time on somebody you know when you can find someone you don't know, and it's a much better experience. Sometimes we waste so much time on somebody we know, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just like there's ulterior motives or whatever it may be. and I think it's just nice to learn that you have faith and hope in humanity. In general, I find people very beautiful. There's always the ones that I suppose that's a little bit off, but run.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that definitely tries to find the nicest somebody. I have a really hard time seeing bad in someone, and sometimes it does bite me in the butt. So.
It does, and I think the best way to deal with that is really just to deal with it with love, and because in the end of the game, we're born alone and we die alone. I mean, I think spending the last few days I spent 30 days with Gabriel, and I don't ever really get to see him because, my ex-wife has moved in so far away, and it's really hard. So financially tough too to keep traveling all the time to see him, but I do as best I can. So I see him. I just saw him. I got up for the summer. It was absolutely incredible. And actually today was a little blue for me because it's the first day I woke up without him. After 30 days with him beside you.
I know.
It was a little difficult.
Now, does he Skype with you?
Yeah, we Skype. We Skype every weekend. But he's a little, ADHD, so he's really hard to nail down. So he's kind of like running around when you're talking to him. But I mean, it'll work. But I'll be seeing him at Christmas, and we'll probably hit Disneyland or something at that point. So.
All right.
It's me. I need to go to Disneyland. I'll be handicapped at that point, so.
Poor Ben has to have knee surgery. He's going to be down for a couple months.
I can get you in the front of the line.
Well, you guys sound like really a sweet couple. Hopefully we'll be able to meet at one of our events. And maybe if we do something on witchcraft, we can look you up and maybe we can exchange notes. I still really want to do something on witchcraft a lot. I'm not sure when that film is going to be.
Good at that, giving you some information too.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks so much
meanwhile,
for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Well, anything, if you want any information or any of our films, it's on www.spookedtv.com, SPOOKEDTV.com. You can get the Exodus File in Redbox. You can get a lot of our titles in Amazon Instant Video. And if you're a Prime member of Amazon, they're free. You get to watch them for free. If you're not a member, they're only $1.99 to watch, so that's pretty cool. You can download them too. And then for all the uncut DVDs and the cool stuff that we directly ship from us, you go to Spook TV. And right now we're giving away the diary and an autographed picture if you buy the Exorcist File DVD from our website.
On my Facebook, if you want to share a link on my Facebook of your schedule, feel free to post right on my wall.
Are we friends? I didn't know if we were friends yet. I think, are we friends yet?
I'm friends with you, Rachel, and Philip.
Yep.
Oh, excellent. Yes, I will. I'll find you right now and put that up there. Okay?
Thank you so much, Christopher. I hope we can talk again soon.
Well, thank you for having me, and God bless you, okay?
You as well. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good night. What a great guy. I mean, he's just had so much history, so many projects, and I am looking forward to seeing now a half a dozen more films. I don't know about you.
I'm trying to get my computer stuff.
Thank you, everyone who's been tuned in tonight to Beyond Paranormal with Ben and myself. If you want to call in, if you have a question for our next guest, please do, 818-431-8214 or 713-955-0384. You can always get into our chat room by clicking on Listen in Chat at www.dtmwickedradio.com/Beyond Paranormal. Hit that like and chat button. It'll get you in, and you can ask your questions directly to us via the chat. Our next guest is an amazing woman. I have not been able to talk to her yet. We've been on Facebook for a while. Ms. Andrea Perrin, who 1970 to 80 lived in a house that was haunted. It was the inspiration for the movie The Conjuring, and she has recently written a trilogy based on these events in her life with her family called House of Darkness, House of Light. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Andrea Perrin. Hello, are you there?
I am. How are you tonight?
I'm wonderful. I'm sorry we kept you waiting a few minutes.
Oh, that's fine. No problem at all. There's something so very soothing about his voice that I just, okay, don't let me fall, into a coma, because he's got that kind of lilt in his voice that is just so soothing that I was like, okay, I'm relaxing
I
a
feel
little
the
too
same
much
way.
now.
No offense to Rachel, of course, his beautiful wife, but I am a sucker for an accent. My husband, because he travels so much, he'll come home with an accent sometimes, and it's just so dreamy and calming, and I've just found myself just kind of like gazing off, just listening to the words, because they are.
Well, I had chatted with Ben just a little bit before the show, and I told him that, there's nothing off the table with me. You can ask me absolutely anything, and I'll be happy to answer it. An hour really only gives us a chance to scratch the surface, but I'll give you any information that you would like. So fire away.
Time.
In fact, I think
Pardon?
you're actually going to be Chris St. Booth at one of the Paracon that you're going to.
Yep, he's going to be at Scarefest as well.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. We've done several together, but they're usually so crowded and there's so many people. I don't think, other than hi, how are you, as we passed each other, that we've actually ever officially met. So perhaps in Kentucky, yes, that sounds great.
Now, tell us, we've both watched The Conjuring. I've had the pleasure, the privilege of meeting Lorraine Warren. I think she's just a very inspirational, wonderful woman. She's, I don't know how your experience has been with her, but I just found her to be a very nice lady. But you had just such horrific things happen to you in your time at that house in the 70s. Can you tell us a little bit about that and if it was different from the movie at all?
It was different from the movie completely. There is not a single scene in the film that comes directly from the 3 books that I began writing in August of 2007. So I am now fast approaching my 7th year and just about ready to release my 3rd volume, which for want of one piece of paper for a copyright permission, is ready to go to print. So if I don't get that in the next few days, then I'll cut that piece out and we'll run with it just the way that it is. But in lieu of that, I'm trying to be a little patient because it's a wonderful piece from a older gentleman that I would really like to include, and my mother very much wants included in the 3rd volume. So that's our hold-up right now, and the only one. Other than that, the thing's ready to go, and I'm so proud of it, and it's so beautiful. I can't even believe what a fantastic job they did with it. Ben had asked me about the books. House of Darkness, House of Light is a trilogy. It can be ordered directly from my publisher, which is authorhouse.com, for a discount. I think you save about $5 on the volume, and they're big, heavy books, so $5 counts. And so people can buy them directly from authorhouse.com. They can get them from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and about 25,000 other different booksellers around the world. It has been a phenomenal ride. I'm very pleased. It was really a double-edged sword because when I signed the contracts in I believe it was 2010 it was 2010 for the film, the rights to use our names and likenesses in the film. I really didn't know what to expect, and then it was, several months later that they brought James Wan on as the director, and I just about had a stroke. I just thought, oh my God, they're going to turn this into slasher, gory, horrible. Oh my God, that's not what it was, and it was. I was a little traumatized until we went to the set in 2012 when they were filming the outside of the house that was used in Wilmington, North Carolina, and then I got to meet all the producers and the director, James is an extremely intelligent, very sensitive, gifted director. And I was truly impressed with what he did, how little special effects he used in the film. But the truth is that not a single image that you see in The Conjuring is really anything like what happened. There were a few really odd things that came up in the film that the set designer nor anyone else could have known about, including the picture of the white folk art cat that's on the mantel board in my bedroom and Shanley Caswell's bedroom in the film. And I have that. That was given to me when we lived at the farm by my mother's friend, Fran, when we went shopping at a flea market. And I have that same picture, which is bizarre. The wallpaper that they chose for the inside of the house, out of the thousands of patterns from the colonial period, they chose the one that we had in the house. And they never saw any photographs of the inside of the house prior to filming, so the set designer, Julie, she could not possibly have known that. When my sister Cindy, that was played by Mackenzie Foy, goes running through the kitchen with wind chimes, we had a set of wind chimes just like that were hanging on our front porch. Little things like that that were just weird. I had never written in the first volume about the death of our dog, the almost immediate bizarre death of our dog when we first moved to the farm. It was too raw. It was still too painful after all these years, and I just couldn't. It seemed like it would just be too morose, almost too sad to begin a book with. Do you understand what I mean? I had to leave it out, and I did. And yet that's how they started the film, with the death of Sadie. But there are things that really need to be clarified, truly clarified, about The Conjuring. And, one of them, the first and foremost, my mother would never, ever in a million years do anything to hurt anyone in her family, especially the children that she gave life to. She worships and adores us and wanted to leave the farm because she felt that we were in harm's way. She was not concerned for herself in the same way she was concerned for us. We never sought out the Warrens. They found us through Keith Johnson and his group from Rhode Island College.
Okay.
We never actually
approached them.
After a lecture, yeah.
Yes, no, nothing. What you need to do is understand that The Conjuring is a conjuring in the truest sense of the word. Two screenwriters, two wonderful men, Chad and Carrie Hayes, who are twin brothers. We're all roughly the same age. We've been around the block in life a few times. And they looked at this and they said, this is just way more information than we can ever put together into a 2-hour film. And, of course, keep in mind they were trying to shoot for a PG-13 rating, which they failed to get even as it was. The things that happened to our family were far more intense than anything that was portrayed in the film. I didn't jump once when I went to the private screening of it. Neither did Lorraine Warren. We sat right together in this huge theater and watched it, and all we did was cry from time to time because it was truly hard to hear. When Lily Taylor is shaking and trembling at the top of the cellar stairs and screaming my name, that brought me back to being a child. There were moments in that film that inspired a revisitation in mind of what actually happened there. But there was nothing in it that was exactly like what actually transpired. And, in fact, Chad and Carrie took information that I provided them, and they took and worked predominantly from Mrs. Warren's case files, Ed and Lorraine Warren's case files. The film was based on their case files. And even Lorraine said, that's not how it happened, that's not what happened. There was no exorcism in our house. My mother was not possessed. My mother was attacked during a seance on the night that Ed and Lorraine came to the house, and all hell broke loose in our house that night. That was the only night the only time that I was ever really, truly terrified when we lived there, truly terrified. And it was because my mother was physically attacked and taken over for a period of time. I don't know how it could even be recreated with CGI. I don't know how it could be recreated. But what was in The Conjuring seemed so convoluted and far-fetched to me in terms of the upside-down chair and the vomiting of blood and all of that. I mean, what actually happened was so much more terrifying than that. There are no words. And they knew that. And they knew that it would run people right out of the theater. And
right.
So that's why it was toned down to the extent that it was. Most Hollywood films are exaggerated versions of the truth. But in this particular case, the truth was actually stranger than fiction, and too strange for Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema to test the waters with. And they felt that it would be better to tone it down to such an extent that they did not traumatize the people in the theater.
Now, we have quite a few questions coming in, if you don't mind me interrupting for
Oh, no, go right ahead. Fire away.
First, our listeners want to know, this was back in the 70s. How old were you and your sisters at this point in time?
I was 12 when we moved to the farm. My youngest sister was 5. So I think I was 12, Nancy was 10, Chris was 9, Cindy was 7, and April was 5.
Now, did activities start right up after you moved in, or how long was it before things started happening?
The first day that we moved, in, the first moments that we walked into the house, my father handed me a big box off the back of the truck and said, "Take this to your mother in the kitchen." And I went through the closest door because it was snowing and it was freezing. And so I went into the parlor door, which was closest to the back of the truck, and cut a hard right into the dining room, and I saw an oddly dressed man standing in the corner of the dining room, and I thought, well, okay, and he seemed very pleasant, and he seemed very fixated on what Mr. Kenyon was doing, Mr. Kenyon being the man who had sold us the farm and was packing up the last of his belongings as we were moving in. So I greeted this person as I walked past him, but he didn't respond to me. And then my sister, Christine, came in the kitchen and asked my mother who was the other man with Mr. Kenyon in the dining room, and my mother said there was no other man. And then Cindy came in and she said, "Mom, who's the other man with Mr. Kenyon?" And my mother's like, "There's nobody else in there with him." And then Nancy came in and said, "The man that was standing with Mr. Kenyon just disappeared." And that was the beginning of it. But nobody discussed it that day. Nobody discussed it for months afterwards because it was chaos and it was hoopla and there were boxes everywhere and people everywhere and snow swirling everywhere. It was chaos. And so it was easy to dismiss the sighting. But within a couple of nights, my sister Cindy was crawling into bed with me, telling me that she kept hearing voices in her bedroom and wanted to come sleep with me. I told her, of course, she could. I had the biggest bed. And so I brought her in with me, and I asked her what she was hearing, and she told me it sounded like a whole bunch of voices all standing around her bed at once, saying the same thing together over and over again, which was, "There are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall." And they said it as a mantra over and over. And It was so disturbing to her that she abandoned her bedroom for a while. But I asked her as I was, preparing to write about that in the book, I said, "Honey, how many times did you hear them over the course of the 10 years that we lived there?" And she just looked up at me from the sofa and she said thousands.
Oh, my.
And when she took over my room when I went off to college in 1976, she said it got even louder. But I never heard them, not once. They were talking to her, not me.
Wow.
And that makes, perfect sense because Cindy was, virtually died and brought back to life when she was 2 months old. And she's a very old soul. She's a very wise woman. And she'd been to the other side for all intents and purposes. She had to have a major surgery when she was just a baby, and they just about lost her and then brought her back. And she's been very gifted, lifelong. She has an awful lot going on with her spiritually. I think really of all of us, she's the one that's most closely attached to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely, and she has to be very sensitive, or, you know, they had to have sought her out because she was so sensitive for her to hear that and not anybody else, or they just wanted her, or just her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, Cindy, even though my mother had the most horrific attacks and the ones that, you know, were the most insidious and the ones that were hateful and malignant, Cindy was approached more than anybody else in our family. For all intents and purposes, there were spirits around her all of the time. And when they had the energy to manifest, they would. And what better energy source than 5 rambunctious little girls?
Right.
You know,
oh, yeah, the energy for that alone.
Yeah, I mean, my sister April made a friend, a little boy named Oliver Richardson, who would crawl out of the eaves into the chimney closet, which was the warmest spot upstairs. It's where the chimney came literally right up through a generous closet, right through the center of it. And he would crawl out of the eaves and look behind him as though he was frightened, scared. He was making sure that he was not being followed, as it were, and would kneel down beside her. And even though they never spoke verbally, there was no disembodied voice attached to him, he spoke to her telepathically and told my little 5-year-old sister that his name was Oliver Richardson and that he had died when he was 6 years old, but that he couldn't leave the house. He was told not to leave the house. And so, you know, there are some real heartbreaking stories attached to this, but the reason that the book is called House of Darkness, House of Light is because truly it was both. It's essentially a love story with a paranormal twist. And, you know, a lot of people say it's like a guided meditation. It's like a long lamentation. It's a love story. It's about how, you know, this is what The Conjuring got right. They got this absolutely right. Fear is conquered by love, and good triumphs over evil. You know, that's the big picture. That's the important story to tell. And that's what the movie covered in broad sweeping strokes, and the fine lines of our personal family history are written within the books.
Now, what was the most, this is coming from one of our chat rooms, what was the most intense experience that you personally ever had there?
It was definitely the night of the seance. No competition. No competition. I thought I saw my mother die that night. I saw my father punch Ed Warren in the face and take him right to the floor, a man that was, you know, twice his size. And it got ugly and it got brutal, and, you know, it was not as it was depicted in the film that they came in. This was beyond them. That's why they always said it was the most significant haunting that they had ever experienced, that they had ever researched or documented or chronicled or investigated. They, you know, in the same way that the seance, the night of the seance, was my most horrific experience in the house, just as a witness. The haunting itself, the investigation, the case itself, was the most daunting for Ed and Lorraine Warren, and made them feel the most human. They felt helpless in the face of what was confronting them in our home, what confronted and took over my mother for a period of time and levitated her in the middle of the dining room, and then within literally a split second, in the shortest amount of time that you can imagine something happening or moving from point A to point B, my mother was 20 feet away, laying on the floor, still in the chair that she was tossed in. And whatever it was that came into our home or was in our home and released, given full reign by a medium who committed spiritual malpractice by throwing wide open the doors to the netherworld that night. I saw, I heard, I know what she did. And what she did was the most dangerous thing that she could have done. And my mother almost paid with her life. Whatever it was that attacked my mother could certainly have killed her had it intended to. I don't think that that was its intention. I think the intention was to make its presence known to the Warrens. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you speechless. Hit me with another one. I've got a little caffeine in me right now. I'm good to go.
Because, I was a little bit under the impression that The Conjuring was so close to what happened. Did your sister have a problem sleepwalking at all? Was that realistic, or was that not?
No, almost everything that you saw in the film was conjured from the imagination of the screenwriters. Almost everything.
Well, there was no clapping game either.
No, we did play hide and seek in the house, but my mother never played with us. And we learned very quickly, after a couple of very bad encounters, that was not a game to play in that house. And so we went outside to play. Now, you said that, was it Keith Johnson that contacted the Warrens for you? Yes, and to this day we don't understand. He said that my mom had called him and asked them, if there was anything that they could do. But my mother, who has all of her faculties, has always maintained for the last 40-plus years that she doesn't know why they came, because she never called anybody. She never asked anybody for help. But one day they showed up in our yard, and Keith is a holy man. There's something about him that is just so splendidly golden and beautiful. And he approached her and began talking to her, and she opened up to him, and she allowed him into the kitchen, and she chatted with him for a few minutes and then let us show him around the house. And when we got upstairs directly over the kitchen was my sister Nancy's bedroom, and he asked when he got upstairs if there were any crosses or anything that we had hanging in the house to protect us. And we said no, and he picked up some sidewalk chalk, and he just put it on the screens to the outside windows. And when he did, both windows came crashing down, although the glass did not break, which I still to this day say there's only one word to describe that, and that would be impossible, that the glass did not shatter with the power that those windows were slammed shut. And something immediately struck my sister, one of my sisters up beside the head. I think it was Nancy or Cindy. I can't remember which one. There were so many incidents. But one of the two of them took a real hard slap to the head that knocked them right to the floor. And the doors all slammed shut, and everybody was screaming. I mean, they came flying down those stairs, all of them with eyes the size of platters. It was a very traumatizing experience. And, Keith got a real wake-up call when he went into that farmhouse, and he immediately contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, who he had worked with prior. Even though he was a young man himself, he was only 18 or 19, and I was 15, so he was, practically my age when they first came to the house. And he brought them in immediately. But they didn't come until the night before Halloween of 1973. We'd already been in the house for 2.5 years. And I think that the reason that they waited to come then was from their own misguided belief that it wasn't the season of the witch all the time at our house. There was always something going on. They thought that they'd come when the veil was at its thinnest. And, my protestation was, there is no veil. You can come here anytime and have an experience, So, but anyway, that's what they did, was they waited till October for whatever reason. And it was just the beginning of, I think, a 5 or 6 visit long investigation over the course of probably about just short of a year that they were involved with our family. And the night of the seance was when it all came to an abrupt end. And my father threw them and their tech crew and everybody out of the house. including a priest and a medium. It was not a pretty picture.
So the Warrens essentially didn't end up fixing everything, or did they?
Right, no. In fact, by their own admission, by Lorraine's own admission, they inadvertently made matters worse.
Oh, wow.
No,
now,
I mean,
were you also
she's honest about it. I've talked with her at length about it. She knows. You know, the film is a piece of fiction. It tells the story in the broadest way. Bathsheba Sherman did not kill her own child. Bathsheba Sherman was not a practicing witch by any record anywhere. What they did was they took a story, a few little pieces of a story, and then they created their own third story. They have her in the film killing her own child in 1863. She was born in 1812 and was well beyond childbearing years in 1863. There's nothing in the film. The clock stopping, that's true, but it wasn't at 3:07. It was at 5:15. You see what I'm saying? They picked a little here and a little there, and then they wove their own tapestry, as it were, into this film, which I think is a beautiful film. I think it's artistically made. It gives people shivers and chills, and it gives them just a little taste of how we lived for 10 years. But if they want to know everything that happened, anything of any real significance that happened, they have to read the books. Sorry. I know that's a big investment of time. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. But I do promise people, when they come out of this trilogy, they won't ever think about anything the same way again.
Now, we have little questions, and I know a few of them you've already answered. The full body apparitions you saw when you were first moved in, the little boy that hid by the chimney. Our listeners want to know if you experienced anything on the grounds outside of the house.
Yes, numerous things. One thing in particular, my sister April and my sister Nancy saw there was an old cellar hole way behind our house, and April would go down there and hang out near the pine forest, which was, as far as I'm concerned, a portal. There was just an incredible magnetic energy there. And Nancy saw, even though the house was long gone, demolished and long gone, when we moved to the property, Nancy saw a whole family living in a perfectly lovely house on that foundation at one point. And April saw a bunch of Nipmuc Indian children running and playing through the pine forest, which did not exist when they were alive hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They were dressed in animal skins, and they were playing in the forest behind our house. And apparently I think she said there were probably 10 or 12 of them, and apparently they all died at once.
Oh, wow.
So who knows how they died. But that was a very fertile valley. That was Nipmuc Indian territory for probably thousands of years before the colonists came and claimed it.
Wow.
Yeah, there's so much residual energy on that place. I've got photographs, honest to God. I've got photographs that I've never even released of that property, where you can literally see faces in the trees. You can see elementals. You can see that property is just wired for light and sound. But here's the thing. You know what it's like when you put evidence out in this community, and instead of people tearing it apart from without, they go at its throat from within. And I'm not willing to share yet. I think that at some point I will compile all the photos, and I'll put them all out in one single album as a collection of evidence or potential evidence after I have my para partner, George Lopez, go through them, because he is a seasoned investigator, and he knows what's real and what's a funky shadow, and he's really good at determining what is what when it comes to evidence. A very trained eye and former military intelligence. He's really smart. So I will run all of them past him, and at some point I will put all the evidence out that I've collected at the farm over the years. In the interim, I just ask people to approach our story with an open mind because, honest to God, had I not experienced this myself as a child, I don't know if I would believe our own story. There are elements of it that are quite literally unbelievable, and I'm often told require a leap of faith. It's true. It's true. It's one of the most extreme cases, which is why we kept our mouths completely closed about it for 30 years and refused to let the Warrens make a movie or have a book written or anything. In fact, my mother was approached in 1980 after we had already sold and moved away from the farm, and Mrs. Warren found my parents and contacted my mom in Georgia and asked her if they could go forward now that we didn't live there anymore, if they could put her together with a ghostwriter and have a book done and do a movie, and offered her a boatload of money. And that night she was attacked in the cellar of the new house, and then found out very abruptly that, attachments were formed and we had been followed. And the next day, Mrs. Warren called back to try to seal a deal, and my mother said, absolutely not, no, all done with this. And 32 years later, I picked up a pen and said, now it's time.
No. And I can understand your reasoning between the evidence releasing because, I'm the same way. If I catch something, I go through several sources before I decide that I'm going to release any information. If you go to my page, you'll see very little evidence released because I have to authenticate it between people I trust and can sit there and constructively tell me yes or no before I'll release it, or to hear what the opinions are going to be. People that I actually trust that are in the field before I release anything.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just so cutthroat out there. I don't know what's wrong with people. We should all be in this together. We should all be like patting each other on the back, going, good capture, even if it's not really a capture. Good picture. Keep going, what's wrong that there's like a self-devouring beast feeding from its own limbs in the paranormal community, and I don't get it. I don't understand it because there are so many people I meet that are so full of light and love and wonder about all of it and curiosity, and there's almost like two separate distinct mindsets in the field. Don't you find that, Ben? See, now I'm becoming the interviewer. Don't you find that, Ben? What do you think about that?
Okay, because I've seen your degree, so I knew this was going to happen. I look at it from the point of this view is the fact that people want to be, if you have that ultimate piece of evidence, that one says there's definitely something there, and you have it, they have to disprove it because they want to be the ones that come up with the first piece of evidence. And it shouldn't be like that, and you're right. It should be a community that works together to find the truth versus people working to push themselves forward. I do this with absolutely zero monetary gain. In fact, I have a negative gain.
I know. People think, we have our own radio shows. Wow, we're really raking in the bucks. They have no idea how much it costs to be on the radio.
Be on radio to share experiences and to be able to share people's stories and inspire people to come forward and to, we've gone out and done house cleansings. I don't ask for $1.
Yeah.
I go out and cleansing. I'm not capable of doing anything more than cleansing, but I can do a cleansing, blessings, and stuff like that. I am capable of that. But anything more than that, I am not, and I will not pretend to be. And if somebody requires me to come in and do a cleansing, I have never charged $1. I have never taken a penny from a person. The most I've accepted is a cup of coffee, which I indulge 100%.
Yeah.
If you want the house.
Yeah, I know. We do the same thing. It costs us to travel. It costs us to investigate. It costs us to, and you know what? I don't care. I consider it good money spent. because it gets me out there into the world, into the community. To me, the like-minded people, those warm and generous and fuzzy, warm, huggy people that I just love and gobble up.
You know what I love more than that is the people who are skeptics that come and talk to you and walk away believers.
Yes, and, I've had a few of those, although I've never once had a person walk up to me at an event and say, you know what, I just don't believe in ghosts. And maybe there are those people out there, but more and more I think that people understand that there clearly is a coinciding multidimensional realm that is where spirit dwells, and that it really is in our realm. It's all we think that we're relegated to a three-dimensional world and our five senses, but that's not the truth of it at all. We live in a multidimensional universe, and we have way more than five senses. We just have to tap into them. And if one of us has them, all of us have them.
Now, that's a very true statement. I try to explain it to people. Is everybody says, oh, well, how can you be a psychic? Everybody's a psychic.
Everybody is. If there is one psychic on this planet, everyone possesses the innate capacity to expand their mind into that region, that realm of experience. Everyone does. And people ask me all the time, how do I communicate with my loved ones that are passed on? And they expect me to give them this, mysterious, dark, cauldron-esque answer. And my answer to them is so simple that it's shocking. Talk to them. Talk to them. Just talk to them. You will get messages back. You will get your messages, and they will be designed in such a way that you cannot mistake them for anything else.
My explanation is like this.
You have to be
If
open.
you look at somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he built muscle on top of muscle and became this huge muscle-bound guy. He worked out and he became strong, okay? It's the same way with the mind. If you work at these muscles, it's a muscle. And if you think of it like that, if you work at it every day, you can have the same abilities. There's nobody that's special that can't do these things. It's just a matter of being able to work with your mind that you're not using.
And to open yourself up. Because, here's the thing. The brain is quite separate and distinct from the mind. I don't believe that the mind is housed in the brain. I think the brain has very specific instructions, DNA instructions, and that it is, for all intents and purposes, it runs us physiologically. But I think that our mind is something that is separate and distinct from it, and I believe in the collective consciousness. I think that every positive thought throws a wave out into the world, and so does every negative thought. And thankfully, to this extent, the proof is in the pudding, because good conquers evil, or else we wouldn't be here anymore.
That's true. Now, actually, let's get back to your story. Now, we've gone through a lot of the negative things. Have you had positive things that you encountered while you were staying?
Oh, yes. Yes, we had many. Well, the original spirit that I described to you, my sister Nancy named him Manny because he was a man. We think that through some historical documentation, we're pretty sure that he was probably Johnny Arnold, who was one of the residents of the house, based on the time that Johnny Arnold lived, based on the clothes that he wore, that type of thing. But it really is all conjecture. None of us are ever going to know in this lifetime, but perhaps I think there was some soul connection that drew us to that house. And there were wonderful experiences that happened there with spirit as well, including the fact that Manny, the one that we first saw, would appear so frequently and watch over us in such a loving way, the children, that I described him in the book as a peripheral member of the family. He was the hardest one to leave when we left in 1980, and leaving the farm was a really disastrous thing for our family. It fractured our family. We were never all under the same roof again after June of 1980 when we sold the farm, because Nancy was so angry and adamant that she stay, that she cut deal with the new owner and stayed on as the caretaker at the farm for quite a while after the rest of us left. And then when we got to Georgia, all hell broke loose down there, and before you knew it, we were all gone. We were all gone. I mean, talk about empty nest syndrome. Virtually overnight, my mother did not know what to make of it. All of her kids were gone in no time. It was, and then she and my father split. It was just a really, really difficult time. It felt almost like we were being punished for leaving the farm. But my mother actually had to ask permission of the spirits to leave, to be released, and she did. And that's really one of the most powerful chapters in Volume 3. Volume 3 has an entire chapter called Collective Memoirs, and it's a personal essay written by every single member of the family, describing the experience and how it fundamentally changed all of us, spiritually and in every other way. It's really the very best part of the book.
Yes, I was going to ask you if there was a point where you finally did receive help in releasing all these spirits from your family's lives. If it was just personally that you guys did yourself, or if you did receive help?
No, there was no help. There was no help. My uncle Eugene Perrin, was a brother of the Sacred Heart, and he served the Pope directly for many years. And every few years he would come over from Italy to the United States and Canada and visit our extended family up and down the eastern seaboard from Prince Edward Island all the way down to Rhode Island. And he came to the farm, but my father was a non-believer. My father just could not even begin to cope with what was happening there, and his best defense mechanism was to get angry and get gone. So he was gone a lot, and while Uncle Gene was there, my mother spoke with him at length, and about 6 weeks after he returned to the Vatican, a priest showed up in our yard. It was winter, and I remember so clearly because there had just been a fresh snow, and he had a black sedan and his black robe and the white snow behind him. It was really a very striking image. And he came to the door and didn't even identify himself, but there was no question that this man was a foreigner and that he had been dispatched from the Vatican. No question about it. Uncle Gene had put a word in when he had gotten back, and he asked if he could walk through the house, which he did, and it took him about 45 minutes to walk through every room of the house and stop and pray in every room. And when he came back into the parlor, he walked over to my mother and took her hands in his own and said, "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Perrin, this house cannot be cleansed." Wow. And then he blessed it from outside and got in his beautiful Mercedes sedan and was gone.
Now, why did he say it couldn't be cleansed?
I don't know. I wish I had had the presence of mind at the time. I was just too young. It didn't even occur to me to ask that question. I was so stunned by the statement itself. And when he left, my mother went and locked herself in the bathroom and wept like a baby.
Is he still around? Have you ever tried to contact him?
No. We don't even know who he was. We don't even have a name or anything. Not even a name.
I know the diocese usually archive everything, so there may be a possibility.
Oh, yeah, and, probably we could. And, someday I'm going to go to Italy, and I will go to the Vatican, and I will start asking some questions because my uncle was extremely well-known there and revered. And I'm sure that someone will share some information with me.
You might not have to go that far, though, because if you get a hold of the Archbishop of your area, you should be able to get through that way, and you may be able to actually get answers.
Well, you haven't read my books yet.
Another chapter in another book.
And when you do, you will understand that I'm not prone to cozying up with the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church turned its back on us. We did not turn our back on them. We were not godless heathens. We were all born and raised Catholic. We were all baptized into the church, confirmed. My father was an altar boy for his entire childhood. And, the film portrayed us as, some kind of pagans, and the fact is that we were all really well-grounded in the Catholic tradition, and it was that was a false depiction in the film, and I understand why they did it, to create, the juxtaposition of the devout Catholic Warrens and then, the people that so needed help and weren't religious at all and, anything like that. But that's far too simplistic a portrayal versus, the real truth of the matter. And we didn't have pictures of Jesus hanging all over the house, and we didn't have crucifixes hanging all over the house, but that didn't mean we weren't practicing Catholics. But, when the priest in our own parish asked my father to find another place to worship with his family, we turned our back on the church, and we never went back.
I don't blame you. And you know what? I was raised Catholic, and I do believe in God. But at the same token, I don't believe that church is necessarily the place of worship. It never says in the Bible that you have to go to a church for a place of worship. The worship was, 99% of the time back in the day, worship was done at your home.
That's right.
That was, it was your own private, that's your sanctuary. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's how it was for us, Ben. We all considered, for all the hardships that we faced at the farm, we considered it a holy place, that it was something sacred. And, we talk about that in different essays and so on throughout the books about how we were in church, we lived in church, because it was a miracle that we had spirits. It was a miracle. When you think about it, think about the notion of being a 12-year-old and seeing a full-body apparition and then seeing it vaporize right between your eyes. Now, right before your face. Right there. There it is, and there it's gone. And you're a kid. And how does that translate in the mind of a child? For me, the way it translated was, oh, my God, there is something beyond death.
Right.
And so I've lived my whole life free of the fear of death, which is the most liberating way to live. I don't want to die. I don't certainly want to die in pain. I'd like to be around for as long as I can, even though there are many times I don't feel like I belong here at all, not at all, and ask, why did I get placed here? Why? Because I feel like such a misfit on this planet. There's just so much that's wrong and so much that needs to be fixed and so much that's frustrating and so much pain and sorrow and sadness, But essentially I do believe that the human race is good and filled with splendid, wonderful people who are genuine and kind and pure and generous, and I really do believe that of humanity. And so that's what keeps me here. And I stay put, but I don't fear dying, because I know that it really is nothing more than that natural transmutation of my energy, my spirit, that goes on to co-create in the universe elsewhere. So to me, it's like, wow, what's next? Now, I don't want to find out tomorrow, but I'm not opposed to finding out.
Right.
But, there's no difference between that and what it's even written in the Bible as far as seeing a burning bush, the miracles that were performed, all of that, and you look at that and you say, you had the exact same the exact same experiences. You had the experience of seeing something that nobody else has been able to see. You've had the ability, just like people say, one person says satanic, the next person says it's a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I do believe that it's a miracle. I feel very privileged. I feel graced to have had the experience. Not everybody in my family feels that way. My sister Christine would rather none of it had ever happened. Believe me when I tell you, it really did fracture our family to leave that farm. It was a real hardship on all of us, because half of us never wanted to leave it and half of us never wanted to look back.
Oh, goodness. Now we have just about 2 minutes, unfortunately, remaining in the hour, so I want to remind people, go out, get Andrea Perron's book, get the truth behind The Conjuring, what really happened, because The Conjuring was not accurate at all compared to what Andrea actually experienced. Her book is called House of Darkness, House of Light, and is actually a trilogy. If you go to her publisher's website, authorhouse.com, you're going to save about $5 by going there. Andrea, do you have any events that you would like to mention that you're going to be at? I know that you're doing some lectures with George Lopez.
Yes, I am. Yes, we're going to be appearing together at Scarefest in Kentucky. We have several other things that are pending. We're putting together a college tour in New England. We've got a lot of stuff up our sleeves, and appearing in Laughlin, Nevada in November for the Star Works Symposium. Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff. I got too many irons in the fire. I need a nap.
Feel free to post your schedule on my Facebook page so that
I will
see that, because I know that they're very interested in hearing more about what you have to say. And again, I hope that listeners will go out and buy your trilogy set. I know that you're going to be releasing the third one soon. I know that Ben and I are very interested in getting copies, and hopefully we can get them signed by you at one of these events.
Oh, that'd be great.
We just love to have all of our guests' books. I mean, we really do go out and get them all, and we love to have them sign them as just kind of like a personal.
It's my personal
It's our
collection.
personal collection, and we do read them back to front, front to
Eventually-
back, rather.
Eventually, I've been working on it for 2 years now, and yet I have not put a book on it. I have a nice big pile of them.
I've gone through most of them.
Oh, that's great. Well, I would really want to thank you for having me on tonight. It's truly been my pleasure to join both of you.
Yes, and I hope you can join us again soon, Andrea. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
You're very welcome, and yes, we'll do it again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Beyond Paranormal with Ben and I here on the DTM Wicked Radio Network. I hope you'll join us next week as we talk with Bill Bean. And we have some more great guests coming up in the weeks ahead, so stay tuned. We hope that you will all continue to join us. Thank you, Andrea. Have a great night.
You too.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
I think we're